We will never forget the year 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which brought an unprecedented health and socio-economic crisis to human history. The current pandemic has become an earth-shattering calamity for well-being and livelihoods and has created multifaceted inequalities at the global level. When it became apparent that economies needed to be shut down as a critical step towards controlling the raging virus, fear gripped the corporate world. With citizens not allowed to leave their homes, a lot of hard work and billions of naira, which had been invested in several endeavors, suddenly seemed at risk. The situation was bleak. This was the hostile environment that the Tertiary Education Trust Fund had to navigate in order to keep the dream of institutionalizing research and development as the driving wheel of Nigeria's technological transformation and economic development. With the TETFund Research and Development Standing Committee inaugurated in September of 2020 and the Centers of Excellence following shortly thereafter, many wondered how TETFund would successfully take on such a lofty goal without the luxury of in-person meetings. TETFund rose to the occasion, with the RDSC completing a number of reports based on extensive research and thorough investigations, all leading to one ultimate goal: the establishment of the National Research and Development Foundation. Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro, the Executive Secretary of TETFund, explains.
Focusing on R&D as a priority area for the academia that our law permits us to fund from TETFund started in 2014. Institutionalization of R&D in Nigeria beyond the academia. And it was supposed to be, we thought, at the level of TETFund. Somebody would ask, why bother about picking on an area of amongst the many out there? And it was very simple. At TETFund, we have the mandate by law of the organization to intervene in priority areas that will improve teaching and learning, quality of education. And since the educational institutions, being the public ones, specifically universities, federal, state, polytechnics, federal, state, colleges of education, federal, state, have very clear priorities, being teaching, research, and community development. It was very, very clear that we needed to know what are the priority interventions consistent with the expectations of the client.
TETFund swiftly inaugurated a committee of the soundest legal minds, educators, entrepreneurs, industrialists, and government representatives to draft a bill for the establishment of the National Research Foundation to be sent to President Muhammadu Buhari through the Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, for onward presentation to the National Assembly as an executive bill. The first question is, how did the RDSC come so far?
Within the pace of 1 year, we've been able to do quite a lot, and we've been able to achieve a lot. One, in terms of the R&D Foundation, the fund has been able to inaugurate the R&D Standing Committee made up of eminent personalities in academia, government, and industry. The committee has swung into action. They've been meeting. We've visited the nooks and corners of Nigeria looking for R&D infrastructure, their state, their status, what's happening, the challenges. The result, or let me say, the report has been compiled, or is being compiled and analyzed as we talk.
The last general meeting was held, where reports were adopted. So across the 13 thematic groups, we concluded on the first phase of the assignment, where the members have actually worked together for 6 intensive months. So to make sure that they concretize their report, and those are technical reports that came from the 13 thematic groups that we have. Remember, I mentioned that these 13 thematic groups constitute about 85% of the Nigerian GDP as of today. So what we have there was so fantastic, and we cannot be talking about research without the crop of people that are members of RDSC, including the technical coordination team, actually performing research themselves. So what do I mean by this? We've done a lot of brainstorming session, think tanking session, but at a point we need to actually go on feed. So we are on feed for 3 weeks, and I need to emphasize this because Nigerians need to appreciate the volume of work that went into the report that I'm talking about. I'm talking about 3 groups, 3 subgroups from each of the thematic groups, giving you 39 themes, sub-themes that now went into 10 locations, 10 institutions, either government, private, or academic institution across the country, giving us nothing less than 390 sample size of institutions that were visited over that period of time. So the first phase of engagement was in September, immediately after their inauguration. By November, they were on field study. There was field work, which is practically telling us the landscape of R&D in this country. So when they came back, that was when we went in for another intensive session of a week for them to now aggregate and map what they have on the field with what they have theorized before and come up with the document that was adopted as the report. Telling you that, yes, we are not just talking about research and development. This particular committee is actually conducting research and development to inform their decision in that report.
But how did TETFund package so many reports covering so many fields under such strenuous circumstances? Technology played a crucial role. The COVID-19 situation underpinned the importance of digital connectivity to keep communities together. Though a great global surge was observed in the usage of information and communication technology due to online education, work and entertainment, etc., TETFund was quick to spot an opportunity. The agency identified that the telecommunications field is the key enabler for not just connectivity, but also of productivity to the quality of outputs from the RDSC. Online engagements allowed for researchers, scientists, engineers, technicians, and professionals from all over the world who are continuously innovating to engage with the RDSC and share their views.
We were able to do a lot of advocacy. We visited those that matter within the industry and government, to advocate for and get the support of critical stakeholders for emergence of R&D. And the response has been massive. The response has been pleasantly surprising. Everybody in this country seems to agree that the best way to go is R&D. And the best way to institutionalize R&D in Nigeria is through the R&D Foundation. We visited the leadership of the R&D Standing Committee together with the Executive Secretary, for example, visited the Minister of Defense, we visited the National Security Advisor to the President, we visited the Chief of Army Staff, we visited the Chief of Naval Staff, among others, and the response we've got is pleasantly massive. So we have very strong conviction that virtually everybody is on board. Those that matter are on board for the emergence of R&D Foundation in Nigeria. And I'm proud that TETFund is spearheading this.
There are a lot of people that ordinarily they are qualified to be part of R&D standing committee members, but they were not privileged because of location, because of scarcity of resources or limitation of resources at the disposal of TETFund. And they have expressed their interest in what's going on. So the next thing we need to do is to make sure that, okay, the report we are talking about that has been product of research and a lot of think tanking and a lot of engagement, can we show this report to the whole world? Because you will agree with me that the ecosystem for R&D is global. It is not national. It is not continental. It is not regional. So, and the best way we could do that is to leverage a virtual platform where anybody that is interested can actually contribute and listen to the presentation of that report. Again, practically speaking, part of what we are saying is that we want a situation whereby we debrick all the existing silos in this country. So even for the groups that have been working as thematic groups, they have been working based on their thematic area. So this particular platform allows us now to bring everybody to come and listen to all other people from other platforms, and now we use that opportunity to collapse any existing fault lines, and they are going to listen to each other and see point of interface. How can they synergize? How can they work together? As we are gaining that using the global engagement platform among members for them to actually listen to other groups and understand. Then we're actually using that platform again to allow Nigerians across the world to engage with the report of this technical team, so that if there are inputs, if there are gaps, this is going to be an opportunity for everybody to be highly inclusive while we're actually presenting the report to the global community, for us to look at it from the perspective of how do we support this drive? How do we engage in this drive? Support is not about money. Resources are many. So resourcing this process actually require global engagement. And that is why we are going to be having that. And we've started, and we had the first 3 sections, and we've agreed that it's going to be a fortnight engagement of 2 to 3 hours, and people can actually come across the world to see what the report looks like for the intensive session that we've had, the field report that we have done. Then they can now come up if there are gaps. Otherwise, they can contribute or criticize positively and make sure that they validate this particular report before it goes into implementation.
The TETFund Global Engagement, which targets greater inclusion of Nigerians and other critical thinkers across the globe, has made a difference in terms of the sheer scale of information gathered, expert opinion sourced, and value added. In fact, it has evolved into a sort of global peer review.
It has been another inspiration entirely. How can you imagine having numbers of vice chancellors, leaders of businesses across the world that are interested in R&D investment in Nigeria, hooking up without you even knowing how they got to know about what we are doing? It was amazing. The first session has in excess of 3, 4, 5 chancellors of foreign university that TETFund does not even have partnership with. But you know, one thing that is working for us, I can say, is that people that are presenters, like the first one, Professor Awo. Professor Awo is the president of the foremost body of food science, the International Food Science Body across the world. Is the president, is the incumbent president. So sharing this, our invitation on their platforms at global level, is actually encouraging a lot of things. I must say that indirectly is a way of inviting FDI to this country, foreign direct investment already, because people are now becoming to ask questions. So something like this is going on. I'm interested. I need to join. Look at the issue that the second section we had that has to do with security. In fact, people that were not infected came in, and we know how we manage it, essentially to come and disrupt, but we need to actually move on because it's an issue of security. Honestly speaking, I need to say that this has made us to inform all the thematic groups that after each of these engagements, they need to come up with supplementary reports that will go as an appendix to the adopted report. Why? Because the input from the global community is something that we need to actually look at, because these are people that are looking at the report objectively. They are not part of the theme. They are just looking at it from their prism. These are what I have in mind. If I have opportunity in changing things in Nigeria, this is what I will do. So some of them are coming from that angle. So when they listen to the report, they say, they have covered 90%. it's remaining this 10%. Let me put it on the table. Then it is being discussed. Why is this 10% not part of your report? Because of X, Y, Z. There's going to be that engagement. And we see some people that have actually sent us mails aggregating their own solution to Nigerian problems.
As people and businesses have become increasingly reliant on video chatting since the coronavirus pandemic began, Zoom bombing incidents have occurred more frequently. Meetings have been exploited by hackers with disturbing results. On March the 30th, for instance, uninvited strangers crashed a Zoom meeting on cyber attacks. When the presenter started covering coronavirus disinformation posted on Reddit, Facebook, and Twitter, a Zoom bomber scribbled all over the screen, forcing the meeting to end early. Zoom hacking issues like this are happening all over the world and constitute a challenge that TETFund is tackling as part of its research and development philosophy. ICT R&D is very essential here.
ICT generally, as you rightly pointed out, the world is going digital. Not only is going digital, but in the area of artificial intelligence. For example, when we visited GE was developing something that before you arrive at an airport, or before you arrive, or before an immigration officer receives you, checks your documents, they have already profiled you. They already be able to tell whether you are worthy to go to enter the country or not, to be allowed entry or not, whether you are a criminal or not, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot to learn, if we are to move forward. In terms of security, ICT is very, very key. In terms of communication, ICT is very key. In terms of today, even learning, knowledge, whatever, ICT has become a process, if you like, through which we achieve everything in life. So we cannot but try also to establish a center that handles this area.
Part of the challenge majorly that we have faced was issue of cyber security threat. Yes, definitely during the last session, we have some hackers who attempted to come and disrupt what we were doing. And that was what gave us more confidence and credence that, okay, so the global community is actually aware, because you need to appreciate that hackers are part of the global community anyway. So they might be using their own research knowledge and talent in a negative way, but that does not mean that they cannot be repositioned.
One of the biggest criticisms to Nigeria's economic operations is that the sectors work in silos. Problems facing each sector are generally approached without recourse to other sectors of the economy. TETFund is very aware of this banana peel, which has tripped off many noble initiatives. This is why, from the onset, the RDSC is designed to tackle cross-cutting issues that permeate through the economic ecosystem.
Okay, so on the cross-cutting issues, what we realize, like I mentioned earlier, is for us to actually break the silos. So at RDSC, after thematic groups have submitted their report, we make a case that each thematic groups will send 3 representations, so that we want a situation whereby we clearly map how agriculture standing alone versus the 12 other thematic groups. What is the contribution of agriculture to pharmaceutical, for example? What is the business agriculture has with One Health? Does agriculture have business with industrialization? Are there engineering needs in agriculture? So essentially, we have taken, we had a section on all of these issues, and we are able to see that clearly all what we have been talking about, the 13 thematic groups, they have point of interface across each other, including petroleum. Today we are talking about getting petrochemicals that can help in pharmaceuticals. It's not about only driving cars. So what cross-cutting issues was able to look into is for us to now look at it holistically without any gap. You have done your work individually, now we look at it and clearly we are coming up with priority areas for the R&D development of this country and what is going to be part of the working priorities of the NRDF when it is well established. This, we are expecting it to fit into the National Development Agenda. Anyone that is going to be lasting from 2021 maybe to 2025 or thereabout, because we are actually scaling based on the global best practice.
This thematic group is supposed to look at all the research and development issues going on within Nigeria, in the institutions, government agencies, industries. As you're well aware, this R&DSA, or the development of the National Research Foundation, is supposed to be a collaborative thing using the triple helix, involving the government, academia, and industries as well. So harnessing our resources and working together, we're supposed to bring out the problems that we have in our environment.
Developed countries of the Western world may prove unsuitable for emerging economies to study as a model for development. The circumstances and parameters may be vastly different. Nigeria can, however, draw its research and development inspirations from countries with similar beginnings like Singapore. Since achieving independence in August of 1965, Singapore's government has placed a strong emphasis on mathematics, technology, and science education in order to prepare a skilled workforce for its industrialization efforts. Over the years, Singapore also developed a unique model and framework for research and development in schools, which played a significant role in its success. The stellar economic performance of Singapore, together with Taiwan, South Korea, and Hong Kong from the 1960s to the 1990s, is a testament to the role of education, especially in mathematics and sciences, in supporting economic development.
If you look at Singapore, in 1991, they started their own journey in research and development, having realized that they are landlocked and they have a small population and they are having limited resources. So the only thing they have are human beings. Can they make them hyper and superhuman beings? Through R&D. That was the thinking. $2 billion was invested in their National Research and Development Fund as at 1991. As at 2020, I'm glad, or I'm impressed to inform you that that particular plan of 1991 to 1995 thereabouts, which is the first 5-year plan, has now been put in practice. Every 5 years there was a revolving plan, and up to 2020, as of 2020 now, they have $19 billion in R&D investment on an annual basis for that 5 years. So when Professor Bogoro was talking about $2 billion during inauguration, and a lot of people were like, no, what is the population, for example, of Singapore compared to 200 million people? And people are like, no, it's too much. Oh, it's too good. So for us, we believe that that is very infinitesimal to the problem that we are about to solve in this country. So we try as much as possible to leverage all this data to set a benchmark for what the NRDF should be doing.
Nigeria is a country with great potential. The only thing that may impede our realization of this dream is if we do not have any focus, if we are not focused, if we are not committed, and if we do not have a strategy. But I can tell you that Nigeria has the wherewithal. A lot of developments in the field of technology, into ICT and whatever is happening in the world, around the world, Nigerians are there. Nigerians have been contributing to that. Go to any university, any first world-class university in the world, you find Nigerians there, either teaching, researching, or learning.
Innovation drives economic growth. But what fuels innovation? At the heart of it research and development activities allow scientists and researchers to develop new knowledge and techniques and technologies. As technology changes, people can produce more with either the same amount or fewer resources, thereby increasing productivity. As productivity grows, so does the economy. Investing in research and innovation is investing in Nigeria's future, in knowledge and new solutions to maintain and improve the Nigerian way of life. And that is the paradigm shift.